Okay, welcome to the May 20th Mad River Valley Recreation District Board meeting. We don't have public here, so no public comment. And we will start with, our agenda is a pretty focused agenda. We have Katarina from the Waterbury Recreation right here, to share some insights. And then we're gonna get into a little bit to our strategic plan, no content, just strategizing on the strategic plan. So let's start with the minutes from April 15th. Has everyone had a chance to review those? And if you're ready.
Alice, talking about minutes, who's gonna do minutes this week?
Oh, thank you, Peter. Well, I guess you're on.
Yeah, I'm not feeling great, so I'd rather not do it if I can avoid it, so. But I'll do it if nobody else can.
You want me to do it?
Gina's going to do
Gina
it.
said she'd do it.
Great, thank you, Gina.
What a team player.
Thank
Is
you.
that what you said?
I said I'll do it.
Well, good, Peter, thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming, even though you're under the weather. So can we have a motion for approving the draft minutes from April 15th?
I'll move to approve the draft minutes from April 15th.
I second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Yep.
Aye. Great, and we're gonna go right ahead with Katarina, who's gonna give us, and it's a nice segue into our own discussion about a strategic plan. To hear from Katarina on the Waterbury's.
Great. I'm just gonna insert a sentence here. So, Mad River Valley Rec District has been around for 30 years, but we are a horse of a different color. Most of the other rec districts in the state are more like Waterbury. Take it away, Kat. So we're gonna learn from you.
Single town.
No, yeah, well, single town and actually program and
Yes.
more infrastructure. Owners of infrastructure.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, hello, everyone on those screens and in the room. I'm Katarina Lasias. I am actually from Warren. So forgive me for now working in Waterbury, but I did prepare a little presentation.
Let me interrupt. Are you Bob and Dana's daughter?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
One of them. I did
Got Dana written all over.
I did prepare a little presentation to help me stay focused. Let me see if it will let me.
I guess I better log in then.
I can also just.
Or you can come sit here with me if you want.
Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yes. You're on, Katarina.
Awesome. So Waterbury Recreation has also been around for over 30 years, but we only got a rec director, I think about 15 years ago, and they started off as a part-time position that eventually became a full-time position. I have only been in the position for almost 2 years. My infamous work anniversary is July 10th. So I did start the day of the flooding in 2023. At the Waterbury Recreation Department, we lead an after-school program and a summer camp for over 300 children each year. We organize field reservations for youth and adult sports, and I'm happy to talk more about that. We actually don't run the programming at the fields and parks, but we do organize the fields they use. We have a parks crew that is shared across departments. So with the recreation department and our public works, we don't have a parks and rec department, just a recreation department. And we plan a lot of community-wide events across town, especially during the 10 months of the year that we're not running summer camp. And then we try and stick to our budget.
What is your budget?
We have a budget of just about $300,000. And the town funds about 40% of that, and our revenue covers the rest of it.
How many employees, sorry, how many?
No,
three
yeah,
employees,
no.
how many
We have
employees?
2 full-time employees year round. And then in the summer, we multiply by 60. We have like 60 employees in the
Yeah,
summer.
yeah.
So, yeah, our big costs are in 8 weeks of summer.
Sure.
We have, so the after-school program is the school year. We are not associated with the school district, but we do operate as closely as we can with their calendar. We serve up to about 23 children. We are not a licensed program, which means that we can't take state subsidy. Or, we do offer scholarships ourselves, but being an unlicensed program is the only way that we've been able to secure appropriate staffing. We hire mostly high schoolers, and high schoolers cannot be in the state regulations. And being a rec focused program is one of the exemptions to being a licensed program. So we have 4 rules that we have to follow by being an unregulated program, and we follow those 4 rules. We have a very, very small rec building where we hold our after-school program. It's about 400 square feet.
Where is it?
It's next to the pool. So that's Anderson Park is where the pool is. So it's in between the tennis courts, the playground and the pool. It's a very small rec
So
building.
kids get bused there?
Yeah, it is on the bus route.
Is there an after-school program at the school too?
Actually, it's run by the Y, which is interesting, but yes, there is one at the school. And obviously we try and keep it an engaging program. Our biggest challenge, and you'll hear this over and over again, is staffing. I think this is the case over here as well, although I'm not sure. Brookside, our primary school, gets out at 2:30. The middle school and high school gets out at 3:30, but get to us by 4. So that hour and a half is really challenging to find staffing that's available at 2:30 in the afternoon. We do our best to accommodate anything during that time, but I will say our numbers have declined recently, and because of staffing, we're concerned, but it actually helps us out. We are looking into how this coming fall runs for us. We are the cheapest program in town, but we're seeing if we can be even cheaper. If that helps with numbers. Do kids around here like go to the library after school?
Some older kids do. There's an after-school program in Waitsfield that's run by, so the one in Waitsfield run by Open Heart.
Yeah, and we have a program. It's an after preschool program, but then extends into after
Okay.
school.
All right.
What are the oldest kids that go to that?
And any kid up in through 6th grade.
But do the 6th graders do that?
A couple, there's a few, most,
Yeah, we're seeing that younger and younger kids are going to the library. In talking with parents, obviously the library is not our program, but we try and get any feedback we can. We find that parents assume that if they're only at the library for a short amount of time, it's a good transition spot. However, I think the library and parents define a short amount of time differently. So.
And there's not a program that can just
No,
go there, and
yeah.
the parents think they're safe because they're at the library, and then the
Yeah, so we've been having a lot of conversations about that, and it's not on the library staff to supervise kids while they're there, so.
The Warren Library will have programs for kids.
Yeah, and the Waterbury Library also has programs, but you don't have to go to them.
Right.
And that's what they're
Right.
experiencing, yeah. So, sorry, I just
Yeah,
wanted to
I
ask
mean,
questions while I'm here.
Of course.
Because the library is a public space, so
Yeah.
anyone can go in at any time.
Right, right. And with what's happening nationally, you don't want to limit, freedom of speech, freedom of use, anything like that, but the topic of discussion. Our biggest thing we do throughout the year is our summer camp. Our summer camp this year, we have 120 kids coming throughout the summer. It's probably gonna up in the coming weeks because we just have a few more spots to fill. We break down the summer camp into 4 themed camps that all run 8 weeks of the summer. We serve grades 1 through 6, that's rising 1st through 6th graders. As always, our limitations are our spaces. This summer, we're actually in the elementary school. We used to be in 2 churches in town in addition to our building. But a big problem I wanted to try and solve in this role was that running between 3 spaces for the whole summer is really hard. So just being in 2 is hopefully going to help us out a lot. Staffing is always an issue. We are fully staffed for the summer, but the biggest challenges we have is finding experienced leadership staff. We can fill the we hire mostly high schoolers. We can fill like the camp counselor roles pretty easily. And we do have a lot of returners, but it's just the, more experienced staff with managerial or supervisor experience that have been really hard to find. So this summer, we actually downsized our camp slightly in order to make sure we're appropriately staffing and have that supervision of our own young staff.
Yeah.
We have 2 large rec vans. We have a 12 and a 15 passenger van. And this year we adapted to making sure all of our camp sizes fit into those 2 vans so that we can just do a lot of field trips. In the past, when we were just over that number, we'd still say yes to people, which was ultimately like fine for them being at camp, but it meant we were like running around.
Drivers,
Yeah. And then you don't actually get to see kids.
Right,
Um,
other than in the back of the van.
yeah, exactly. I think those are sort of the big limitations of our program. We do hope to expand, but keeping all of those things in mind.
So, and I hate to, I'm gonna
No,
ask
no,
only as we
please.
go along, because that's.
Yeah.
The 4 themes,
Yeah, so we keep one for our youngest, so it's not a theme, it's an age. We have our rising 1st graders all in a camp together. That always is like our most, our grade that has the most kids coming to camp, and they often do need more hand-holding. So we have 1 camp for rising 1st graders called our Rising Stars. We have Creative Kids Camp, we have Action and Energy Camp, and we have an Adventure Camp. So they're all kind of loose themes. But the whole idea is that in the morning, we have a 2-hour block where they have a themed activity. And that could be a visiting instructor. We could go on a field trip specific for them, an excursion, something like that. And then we all have lunch together. We are part of a free meals program. We're grandfathered in from COVID. We will no longer be grandfathered in 2 years, which is a headache for 2 years from now. But we all eat lunch together, and then we spend the afternoon hours at Anderson Park. So there's a big field there are tennis courts, and there's our pool. So while we have 4 themed camps, we spend the afternoons together.
and those are loosely around ages, is that? how
No,
that
the
works?
other 3 camps are 2nd through 6th graders.
And are some more popular than others? I'm just curious.
You know what? Not really, which last summer we had 6, which was just too many to keep up with for this coming summer. And we thought we were keeping the ones that were the most popular. But it turns out they liked all of the ones we kept. So we're pretty full for the whole summer. The Creative Kids one always seems to be the most popular on registration day. Like it fills up the most, but by 1 month in, we were full in all of our camps, so. Do we want to talk more? Do you care more about summer camp? You can ask questions.
All
No,
very-
So we have 5 parks in town. They're used all seasons. Obviously, we paint them differently for the different seasons because we have a lot of baseball fields, but when it's not baseball season, we make them soccer fields. We do run a website where people make all of their reservations. I don't know how it's done here, but we do have a way that people can request them. Therefore, if you're on a league sports team, you can reserve, every single week or every Tuesday, Thursday, whatever you want. And then once all of those are filled, anyone who wants to do an individual registration can do that also.
Do you do kids registrations too? For like a kid registering to be on the Little League team?
No. So the Little League team runs their own registrations for their program.
Mhm.
We work with like the Little League director to reserve the fields for
Yep.
them.
So you use MyRec, that software,
Mhm.
but just for your own activities, for either camp or swim lessons, whatever, but not for the other sports.
Yeah, we've only dipped into that just a little bit for swim team, because they didn't have a platform themselves. And there's a specific reason why we've done that, where swim team members also have to have a pool membership. So because it's on our software, we can make that, well, a lot electronically, you can make sure that happens in the registration. In talking with some of the other like kids sports leagues, they have to be accredited in their own ways. Like the Waterbury Youth Soccer has to make sure all of their coaches are fingerprinted and that goes through the National Soccer Organization, and they're affiliated with it. So they actually didn't want to switch over to ours just because they sign up through the soccer affiliated website.
Okay, that's good to know.
I believe the same is for Little League, and then for winter, we don't run hockey, even though the ice center's in town, that's not us. And we don't run basketball, so we're good for the winter. We also have to have a parks crew and hold relatively decent expectations of our field, both of the fields, but also for people's expectations of the fields. I will say all but one of our parks are in flood zones or wetlands. So it has been pretty hard to keep up with the maintenance of our fields, especially the last couple of years.
Yep.
I'm sure you all know Dak Row in the center of town. That has flooded 5 times since I started.
Yeah.
The other big thing that we work on are parks projects. I imagine it's the same for all Vermont towns, but we have a lot of small organizations that are really into niche projects. And we do our best to at least know what's going on. Doesn't mean we know all of the time. But a lot of those organizations either lead small projects, individuals can lead them, and we do our best to have some kind of collaboration between them. Put some pictures in here, but this is a new memorial bench for a family's son who died. We work to have that in our parks and match the sort of feel of our park. This is a 20-acre park that holds our disc golf course and some walking trails in Waterbury Center. So we do ask families we ask whoever is reaching out to us to try and make them low maintenance. And in working with this family, they built this beautiful bench, so that was great. The disc golf course is maintained by a volunteer organization as well. So that's an MOU that we have with them. And that's an 18-hole professional disc golf
But
course.
it's on town land.
But it's on town land. It was built 25 years ago. It became very popular during COVID. Since it was built, a lot of housing development has gone in, and there are now just a lot more, the collaborative approaches that we have to have between neighbors and the disc golf course. We work on, this isn't technically an accessible path, but it's an improvement from Dak Row up to our town. Our town and library is right next door, but it's 20 feet up. So instead of going up this bank that is really steep, we recently put this in. And then this is a picture of me and one of our planning commissioners, but he worked on a grant with the Friends of the Winooski River, as well as with Project Harmony, to plant 200 trees along a riparian area that used to be part of the disc golf course, but we recently closed so that it could be treated better.
Hmm.
So we do a bunch of community events. Most of all of these are annual events now, and I just wanted to highlight, again, I'm sure this is how you all operate. Almost all of them are because of partnerships. I do work on these events a lot and spend a lot of my time on them, but almost none of them would be possible without a partnership. So I didn't know they'd all.
Kat, are
work
they
with that.
fundraisers or just traditional, some of them are, some of them aren't?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, so we do a Christmas tree bonfire. This was started by the Boy Scouts and the fire department.
Seems logical.
Yeah.
It's on fire, put it out.
Exactly. It is, a nice way for people to get rid of their Christmas trees and get together.
Does that happen
And it's
at,
huge. It is a massive
January.
fire.
Yeah, where does that happen?
Also Anderson Park, we do everything in Anderson Park. I think this past year we had almost 200 Christmas trees. Yeah.
is Anderson Park right in the center of town?
Cool.
That's
No.
where the pool
Oh, where
is.
the pool is,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Waterbury Winterfest is a big weekend in Waterbury. This year we hosted an ice skating disco, which was very well attended. About 350 people attended, and we made it a food drive. So we collected almost 400 pounds of food for the local food shelf. That was wonderful. Do Canvas and Cocoa fundraisers. We don't have a liquor license. So we try and make some family friendly events. We have a community pool party. Normally admission to our pool is $5, or daily admission. So one day a year we do a $1 day and sell hot dogs and hamburgers and have music and things like that. We do a free performance in the summer months. You probably would be shocked. It's from my dad, but we do pay him. No.
Oh, you're not talking about the concert.
No, there are concerts in the park. Those are run by Rotary.
Yeah.
But we do try and do one free big performance a year. And this year it is my dad.
Mhm.
I don't know of you. My dad is Dino Man, just so I'm not just
Local
saying.
town.
My dad.
I didn't know that.
We're doing another ice center disco because it was very popular in the summer months, because we thought that would be fun to have something at the ice rink in the summer. We did a 3v3 basketball tournament this year, and we're going to do it again. We do a pumpkin chuck and food drive in the fall, which is a fun and very free event. And then Waterbury hosts an annual parade. It's called the River of Light Parade. And Waterbury Rec runs sort of the festivities at the fields at the end of it. And this year we hosted our first ever chess tournament, and we partner with Scouting of America. Now, there we go. New name for Boy Scouts.
Would you say that, I know you said those are all in collaboration, but the origin of the events, were they from the rec department or from the outside groups, and then coming to the rec department saying, hey, you want to help out here?
I would say maybe 50-50.
Oh.
And that's because some of these have been going on in Waterbury for a long time. So
Yeah.
to know the exact origin, I'm not the person to
Yeah.
ask. But I will say from my time with the department, it's been really important to me to have managed expectations of what I can do as a two-person department. So when I first started, for example, like the Waterbury Winterfest weekend, we were pulled in like 6 or 7 different directions. So the next year I made sure to say, we are more than happy to run like 2 very big events, but you can't pull me into 4 others after that. Like we will run 2 events very well. You don't need to check on us. We've got them, but.
And what kind of events for the Winterfest?
That was the ice skating disco, and we ran a 3v3 basketball tournament. We're just shifting when the basketball tournament is this year. It didn't make sense to actually hold a basketball tournament during basketball season. It just didn't seem like people wanted to do
What's a
that.
3D?
A 3v3 is just literally
3 people against.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. 3V. Okay, all right.
Did you think it was 3D?
3D.
Oh,
that'd be really cool.
Multi-dimensional, I like that. Don't ask me the rules. Yeah.
Space Jam.
Yeah. I will say some of them, we do take a shot in the dark if a organization comes to us, like the chess tournament. I'm very supportive of chess. I know how to play. I do not know how to play very well. I also know it's really important for kids to learn how to play chess for a number of reasons. So when the Boy Scouts came to me saying they wanted to do this, I was like, okay, we'll see how it goes. If 6 people show up, we'll still play a lot of chess.
Yep.
We ended up having 22 kids show up
Nice.
and play like cumulatively, all of them like 42 hours of chess. So there was a lot of chess that weekend. We did take an hour break and then afterwards had an obstacle course. So they did get some energy out too, but yeah, we try things all the time. Yeah, there is the pumpkin chuck. I think that people, I should have chose a different name, but here I am now. You actually throw it between 2 people and you have to successfully catch
Like
it.
the water balloon toss.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I thought it was who could throw the pumpkin apart. That's why I was
Yeah,
thinking of that.
I think that most people think that I named it poorly, but here we are. Yeah. You know what? People come out to this one that I've never seen in my life before, and I just started it 2 years ago, so we still raise a lot of food for the local food shelf too, so it's been nice. This was a winner of, I think, the costume contest at the ice skating disco. We ran some contests throughout the night. It's one of our paint and sips. This is the bonfire while it was dying down, so please imagine it much bigger. And that is Dino Man performing at our camp or at the end. So we do also some programming. Again, these are all partnership ones. So winter swim lessons, thank you all so much for being supportive of our winter swim lessons this year. We have partnered with various indoor pools. This year, the Shark was wonderful. And we ran 3 indoor swim lesson sessions. Almost 100 people. I guess duplicated if they went to all 3 came to the lessons. We run summer swim lessons in our own pool. We have tennis lessons in the summer. That's a tennis in the parks program. USTA, the United States Tennis Association, helps people run those programs. So they train the coaches, they prepare the programming. We just do the registration. We make sure we share the contact information with USTA. But that's a pretty successful program that we run. We found it's most successful in the summer. We tried to run it in the fall and it just, we did not get a lot of signups. Again, you'll see some repetitive family names, but my sister is teaching pickleball lessons this summer. She is a very competitive pickleball player and is on the Costa Rican national team. So she is running pickleball lessons this summer. We have drop-in workout lessons actually taught by my one staff person. We run Zumba classes from a local Zumba instructor. And that was my only other partnership, but we often in the wintertime do like a kids night out series. So that could be like a paint night, a movie night, something that we say, we'll watch your kid for $25 for 3 hours and go do something
Cool.
if you want.
And where are the locations for that?
That's just in our
In
building.
your building?
Yep.
Your tiny 400 square foot.
Yeah, I mean, we don't kid. We have, a projector and all of that. We cap all of our things at.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
It's not open.
No, it's not open to all of it. You do have to register. We have to know who you are.
Yeah.
So we can be in contact with you. If you forget to pick up your kid.
There's no drop and leave
Yeah.
and never come back.
Young day. So we're always trying new programming. Some of them flop, some of them do really well, and we just kind of continue from there. I include this in some presentations, but obviously we have to run on our budget, unfortunately. And then we apply for as many grants and other funding opportunities as possible. Again, this was a picture of the tree grant we got, and those are, I believe, people from Burma. from Project Harmony that helped us plant the trees.
So Kat, a couple questions. Will you do winter swim lessons at Shark again? Are you
We
gonna
plan
try?
to. I will say the only difficulty we had with that is that we had way more non-residents sign up for the classes than residents.
Mhm.
And while that's fine, my staff still got paid. We got to have our staff come on earlier in the season, which prepares us better for summer. I have to sort of weigh if
Yeah.
it makes sense for Waterbury to run a program that's not always serving Waterbury residents. But at
Yeah.
the same time, there are some wins there, so.
Yeah.
I'd say probably, but not 100%.
And the impetus for the events, I mean, you have some partners, you have some from the longstanding, some new, you try. It's just enriching the lives of the residents of Waterbury and, you know, it seems like a lot of them are really family focused. And that's probably because you have your after-school programs and your summer camp, and that's kind of the people that know you. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
envision, we've thought about doing some events or, you know, more events and, you know, so
Yeah.
we really haven't, that was one of the things we didn't really achieve from our last strategic plan. We did a few. You know, like I saw helmets and
Right.
lights at the farmer's market, that could be considered an event. We participate, you know, with some partner events, but
Yeah, I would say that when I started, the department wasn't present in the community that
Mhm.
much. There were a couple of annual events that they were partnered on, and then really the rec department was known for summer camp. And I felt it was important for people to know that we're not just summer camp. So that was sort of the idea. And to show that the other 10 months of the year, we're
We're
not
still
just
busy.
twiddling our
well,
thumbs.
and you gotta go after, what, it's 40% of your budget is
Yeah.
from the town.
Yeah,
Taxes, is it 40%?
yeah, about 40%.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah.
So do you, in terms of brainstorming these events and programming, do you seek public input? How do you, and if so, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, it comes in a lot of different ways. Sometimes, you know, you kind of get the voluntold, right? From many places in town. Then there's also like, people have said there's not enough fitness classes in town, and we try and dip our toe in that. We have some that have run really successfully. There are others that people don't come. So we do try and also make it clear, like, we have a cancellation policy and 5 people have to show up or it's not worth hiring an instructor, or, you know, things like that. But yeah, I would say that some of it comes from feedback from, you know, the select board or people attending town meeting or just other public forums. And then some of them could be like, I get an email from enough people, right? Like, it could be like 4 people that say, I'd like to do a fitness class, and that's, you know, a fair amount of people who say they want to do it. And so I make sure that hopefully they sign up for whatever fitness class we plan. But yeah, so
Is there a board of directors or is the select board?
Waterbury has a recreation committee, but they are an advisory committee. I report to the town manager and the select board.
I have a couple of questions for you, Katerina.
Yeah,
Financial questions. Question number 1 is, you mentioned that your budget is 300,000. And that 120,000 comes from the town. That leaves $180,000, which is a pretty good chunk of change. You said it came from revenue. And
Yeah.
that doesn't seem like summer camp registrations are gonna fill that. Where does that revenue come from? That's question number 1. And the other question, financial question, is when you have events where you have partners, do you guys have a formula for divvying up the revenues, or do you just do it case by case?
yeah, okay, so we generate this summer, we're gonna generate about $130,000 from our summer camp, which will cover our costs. And then most of our other revenue comes from after-school program. So I think we will cover what we need in our budget this year. I will say the pool is always in the red. That is something that I have to cover from other places or from, or from taxpayers. But, yeah, I will say that summer camp is our biggest revenue source. In previous years to me joining, it ran in the red also, but this year we will be not even in the black, which will be nice. For our partner events, it is a case by case, like Boy Scouts cannot accept revenue. So for all of those events, we keep it. I can't say we make a lot of revenue. I just try and break even on a lot of community oriented events. I will say that most of our community events, we are not trying to generate much revenue. Our fundraisers, we do try and have them all go to our scholarship fund for summer camp. But yeah, I can't say I have a lot of profitable events.
And what's your scholarship, like, how do you decide on the scholarships? Is it a household income thing or a?
Yeah, we have a scholarship application form. They do have to say, you know, what income they make each month, but they also have to say, even if they're of a certain, you know, if they're of a higher income, if they're not able to afford camp, we still might stretch to cover it. It is available only to residents because we're part of the town. And last year we gave out 5 or 6 scholarships. This year is probably going to be about the same.
So the gap in your making that 300,000, is that mostly from grants? You get 40% from the town, but 120, 130 from the after school programs and the summer camps.
Oh, we also get some from after school
Right,
as
so that
well.
wasn't it, so it was 130 from summer camp
Yeah.
and then
Okay,
Yeah,
some big number,
Yeah.
okay.
not
Yeah.
as big, yeah.
Yeah.
from them. So other than staffing, what's your biggest challenge?
I think our biggest challenge is that we don't actually have a facility that meets our needs. So there have been a lot of conversations about a new rec facility in town. I've worked with the rec committee in envisioning what that would look like in 2019. So before I was with the town, the town did a community facility study, which was a shared space that included some rec, like a gym and classroom spaces, in addition to the senior center and a childcare space. That was $11,000 or $11 million in 2019. And when I went back to the firm that did it in 2024 dollars, it would be like $18 million. We do not have that type of money in Waterbury. So we're sort of going back and downsizing and seeing if it is something that we can do. Obviously that still, even if we're moving at warp speed, is 5 years out. So my goal would be a facility. It would allow us to have our own space, even though we're in the school this summer, we're only in the gym and cafeteria, which is again fine, but it's not our own space and it's limited. So yeah, my goal would be to have a space that also could benefit the community. We're finding in our one rentable space in Waterbury, it's Steel Community Room, it's right in our town offices, that there are a lot of just organizations in general interested in renting space. It's used for senior center exercise classes, it's used for watercolor classes. If we just had a more recreation focused building, we could also be accommodating more of those needs rather than in a conference room space.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions, you guys?
I go to a lot of your events, they're wonderful.
Oh,
Thank you for doing them, yeah. I have 2 little kids, it's like, oh. Where it's happening in Waterbury.
That's awesome. Oh yeah, so I guess our future plans, that was what you
Yeah,
told me to
right.
think about, challenges and future plans. I think flooding is a really big deal.
Yeah, so stop.
Yeah, so just stop it. I'll work on that. And,
Like the baseball fields
That
and
road.
at Dacro are you just say, we just can't deal with it because we know it's gonna happen again at this point.
this summer, that's what we did.
Yeah.
There's still 6 inches of silt on our baseball fields.
From last summer or just
Yeah, from
recently?
last summer. Yeah, because again, we only have a parks crew that's seasonal, that's, you know, at the peak of their employment last summer, we had 5, but again, we mostly hire high schoolers that work.
And they're
8 weeks
dedicated,
of
they're
summer.
dedicated to the Waterbury Parks. They're
Yeah,
not,
just
it's not
ours.
contracted out.
Yep.
And so the
we
softball
contract-
field isn't far enough away that it doesn't get hammered as much.
The baseball field, for whatever reason, in the 2024 flooding, got everything. In the 2023 flooding, it was spread out around that crowd.
Shared the wealth.
Yeah. I mean, it still wasn't good, but it was easier to clean up. Yeah, that's one we're gonna have to think about how we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, those are not, there's a lot of real estate there, but not if it's
Yeah.
useless.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it happens always in the smack dab of the season. Yeah. So that is a big issue. The town obviously is looking at that in a whole. I think it's gonna pass at the state legislature, but we're buying the cornfield behind the state complex on the sort of backside of Randall Street, with the goal of hopefully lowering that, which could probably take on more floodwaters, which would hopefully help a little bit during flooding.
So you're doing it as a preventative to flooding, you're not gonna use that
No,
land for anything?
No,
really?
yeah.
Divert
that
water.
would be-
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Cory?
And, yeah, and then all of these other projects are happening in town, so just trying to like keep track of them. The skate park is being built this summer. We built an accessible playground material in the same park. And we have 2 master plans that we try and keep up with, but again,
And do you coordinate
Budgeting wise.
with, is there a Waterbury equivalent of the Mad River Riders of a mountain bike?
yep, WADA, the
Uh,
Waterbury
Area.
Area Trails Alliance. Thank you.
And do you coordinate with them as well, or is that
Yes.
sort of a?
I wouldn't say coordinate, we collaborate or just stay connected. Their trails are on state land, so that's, they have to do a lot of the collaborating with the state. We do not have to be
Mhm.
involved with that. But of course, we support them. They're doing an economic study right now to see how much money they're bringing to Waterbury. Because I know there was one, they're actually pointing to the one that was done at the Blueberry Lake Trails quite a bit, to just show the impact they have. And WADA's a great organization, so, and their one staff person is on the rec committee, so we stay in close contact.
That's the VIMBA chapter for Waterbury. right?
Exactly, yep. Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay and listen to that.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I'll stay for your strategy session, but I wish you luck.
Right.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm sure we'll all talk soon.
Yeah.
Transportation to Shark, how did that work with kids for swim lessons? I mean,
We don't run
and the
transportation.
parents just got.
Sundays,
Yeah,
yeah.
on Sundays,
the parents
yeah.
got kids there.
We don't do a lot of coordination of transportation, which hasn't been a big concern for the families we work with right now. And then if we were to take it on, it'd just be a bigger undertaking, but we obviously want people in our program, so.
But you use your vans for the field trips in
Yeah,
summer.
yeah.
Mostly.
Mhm. We don't like pick kids up at their houses or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But.
Within the day.
Yep.
Nice.
Well, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you so much. Matt. That's great.
Are you living in Waterbury or you still live in Warren?
I live in Bolton.
Bolton,
Yeah.
She's the married lady with the house in Bolton.
sorry to make you drive this direction.
It's quite all right.
It's the whole.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thanks
Nice talking.
again. Yeah, take care.
Yeah.
Thanks for,
Oh, I'll just keep it back in the same spot.
on many hats.
Is that our craft fair?
It is.
Okay.
I signed the contract. Signed back. That was great.
That was great. You gave me some thoughts of as we go through our old strategic plan.
Yeah.
So our objective tonight is really just, we never really finished reviewing our old strategic plan. And I'm gonna pull up the Google Doc that I had before, and let's just do a verbal, this is what we did, this is what we need to do, where our gaps are. So let me see if I can get that. Those, all right, so, we had 6 focus areas: trails, programming, events, parks and facilities, needs assessment and planning, and grants. And each one had a set of, objectives, subsidiary objectives. So for trails, lead the trails collaborative with the Mad River Valley Planning District, signage, mapping, funding, planning, construction, and maintenance. So, any thoughts about what are our significant accomplishments, contributions to those efforts? Signage.
Well,
I mean,
the Vorak thing. I
Yeah.
mean, because the Trails Collaborative really was put on hold because the same players were the leaders in Vorak. So we, couldn't continue those quarterly it didn't make any sense to continue those quarterly meetings when we were all meeting once or twice a month.
Yep.
About, so the new version of CRV 2.0 will have quarterly meetings that the public can come to or observe. But yeah, I mean,
So
I
we
think
could say,
I
at
think
least,
we get it out of the ballpark. We
Yeah.
got 400 grand.
yeah, within Vorak, in Turk, we did the, contributed to the Irisville Trail. And to the bike bridge and to Revolution, is that the,
Yep.
I wanna call it the Revolution Bridge, what is it? But in terms of trails, that was what was mostly in the Vorak, right?
Yeah, other
Yes.
than our, annually funding Mad River Path and riders
The
to do trails.
The riders will, and also you could say the bridge runners
Yep,
Yep. So, funding via grants.
and the path.
path and riders and route runners, yeah.
Mapping, again, we could do that under the auspices of the Vorak.
Right, well, the kiosk thing was before us and it continues, I mean, I haven't, the path has taken that on.
So, I can pull these in later, riders, path riders, runners.
Bridge runners.
Hmm. And when we think about gaps on trails, I'm thinking about that request that came, everybody's getting the ones that came.
Yeah, that- That's actually a neighbor of mine, she didn't know, I guess she didn't realize I had that job, so I have to, the thing that came through is which trails are accessible for a motorized, wheelchair, cause she, on Lincoln Gap, in her
Mhm.
motorized wheelchair patty is. And, so I'm gonna see all the trail guys tomorrow at the big meeting, so I'm just gonna ask them. Then, but it's a great question that we need to,
So I think that's the gap, the accessibility for motorized wheelchairs, handicap. And how far we can go with our partner organizations in inspiring that.
Yep.
Is. Any other gaps at this point that we're thinking about?
It's still, this might be off topic, but you still can't, if you start at Dave's shop,
Mhm.
and you don't ride up the bridge, which you wouldn't want to, because it's a fast downhill, you still have to ride on 100 to get to Blackbird. Just too bad.
Yeah,
Oh. Because it climbs and then then
mean, you
you
really-
have to dip down from Revolution to Flatbread.
Well, just, if you want it, like the whole idea, in my mind, I thought part of that was connecting the trail network, which it does downhill. But it doesn't, like if you were to park there, right, because isn't there like talk of having like beer garden and other things happening eventually. Like if you start there, you have, all the riders would be on 100 until you can get on the mat path.
So
So
we're,
it's like something in that's in my mind, like sometimes I like parking there with my 7-year-old, because that's a good loop, you go up Revolution and then you come down the bridge, but then you have to ride on 100.
so bike
right.
or connectivity,
It's just a small portion, right, because you can get on the path right after the bridge, but there is a section there. I don't know how, it's water, I don't know how you would ever.
Yeah.
We need another biker bridge. But that was just something I was thinking of the other day, that it was the idea of connecting it, right?
yeah, but
So
even if it's a bike lane, that is a well-marked and,
that would
Wider.
be better than what it is.
yeah.
But they'd have to replace that bridge.
Yeah. We're gonna-
That state has to replace the bridge.
Or like where that stream that comes into the Mad River, where the Mad River path comes down connects, right? If there was, I'm not gonna build another bridge.
Yeah, no, but
I'm just pointing it
Right,
out, like that was, the idea was connecting those sections.
Yeah.
And it has in a downhill, but not an uphill.
And I wonder if, and again, there is this, how much duplication is needed, how much should be avoided, and when I think about accessibility during seasonal accessibility when trails are closed, to what degree should the rec district be posting on our website, or do we just direct everything everywhere else? Path.
When things are closed, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way we could get information timely enough to, I mean. Cause I don't know how timely the.
Other than putting
websites
up a
are updated.
blurb that's,
At the beginning of mud season or something like that.
Making sure you check with the following organizations.
Yeah, I think
But
that's
like
a
after
good
the
idea.
rain this weekend,
Mhm.
I'm trying to find out what's open and what's not. You go and find out, I mean, or, does it get posted?
Well, and I think even about, seasonal notification / coordination. From a safety standpoint, when the river floods and people are swimming here, there and everywhere, and do we want to have some role in putting up a warning, a notice, something, and not to be debated right now. I'm just,
Yeah,
I'm asking that as a safety question, the degree to which is that a gap? And yes, anything else? Parks and facilities, Mad River Parks, it says stadium and viability and sustainability, we're working on that, through grants. Exploring future recreational facility opportunities. Yeah, dog park, how about that? Grants and
I get so
funding.
many compliments all the time about that, and it really gets used a lot.
Any complaints?
No, not really, I mean, people still don't pick up the poop inside the park of the dogs, it was especially that way in the winter. And we just think it was too, it's not plowed or anything like that, so your dog, it's a big space, your
Yeah.
dog poops over there, you're not walking through the snow and post holing to get it, I guess, or there's.
And so-
We kind of determined there's a different crowd in the winter, like locals don't use it in the winter.
Right.
So I don't know what the culture is for out-of-staters, it's like.
And
some
so
don't
did,
clean up.
was there a cleanup crew in the spring? That you
Yeah,
organized?
they have people who like manage. the
Come with a
site.
scoop. Scoop it up.
Well, there's a lot of scoopers there, but yeah, right.
So any other accomplishments in those areas? Manderville Park, other than we.
Well, just
water
the grants that
irrigation.
go to, oh, the irrigation
Fabulous.
system,
Oh, right. So we're
the
not just talking
shed, we
about
put
this
a
year.
shed in the storage shed that was on the newer side, I think.
Yep.
During this 8 years that
Yep.
was passed. We're also funding a lot of facilities,
Mhm.
right?
Gaps on parks and facilities.
Well, if we're.
You know, in our surveys, the same thing that Katarina was saying is like. Everybody seemed to want an indoor facility of some sort.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. If
Yeah.
we wanna go down the route of offering programming.
We could take
don't have
over
a
Waitsfield
facility.
Church and have a big
Oh,
indoor,
believe me, I've been,
thinking about that.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, need for a community facility, multi-use
Pool.
pool.
Cool. When I talk to people, that's what people say.
That is, and it's like came up on the survey a
Maybe
lot.
people said pool and an indoor place to play basketball and some other things that would be really nice. to
More
have.
after school programs. Just thinking about it, such a different.
Isn't that
model,
amazing?
right? I mean,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's. You know,
And by the way, the rec
Next
district. does have
evolution.
18 The rec district does have $18 million in the budget to build that, right?
Yes.
Let me get back to you on that.
But I was JB Weir, who works at Waitsfield Town Hall, used to be a soccer coach and said they're losing kids right and left to capital soccer because there's no indoor playing spaces. And kids that are more serious want that year round kind of thing. Also not great for kids to specialize in sports too young. There had a good comment email she shared with Alice and I on that, but it's true, you just don't have, different opportunities, there's no big indoor spaces.
Well,
And-
I just started driving to Stowe to do the mountain bike program for kids there. And there's 3 groups of probably 22 kids. And I think 11 of them are from the valley. And then I've been doing swimming lessons at the swimming hole. And I've run into my 3 families
Oh,
from the
gosh,
valley.
yeah.
Everyone's like.
Yeah, that's pretty far to go.
It's really far to go. But you can do it all at once. Like I
Well,
dropped one kid at.
We
I
might,
think they did a good swimming.
you bring up a good point. I think if we spend some money on helping people get their swim instructor license and training, we might be able to do, because Sugar Bush is welcoming to us having a program up there. And the thing that I haven't been able to get past is instructors, swim instructors, because if they're high school students, they're in school or they do it as their full-time summer job. But like one of the PE teachers in the area said that he would get certified as a swim instructor if we did swim lessons during the school day, but can't do it afterward. So, I think there's more to work with there, especially if we help fund some of the training, because it's not.
Putting that in the
Yeah.
programming helps certify some
Right.
instructors.
The other challenging thing about the shark pool, and I feel like I'm being really negative, is that it's not shallow. So for little
It jumps
kids,
very, very.
for little kids saloon, they're like something by going to other pools in Vermont and have a
You've seen,
shallow
yeah.
end. I'm not saying, I just like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
right.
like randomly
Yeah,
point
yeah,
out things.
yeah,
These are not helpful, but,
Good.
it is really nice when your kid can't swim to be able to touch the ball.
Yep. Well, when we get John Stokes to build that pool, we'll make sure. that-
Yeah, can you-
Call it that
Yeah,
retirement.
Maybe a strategic plan in my mind is a pipe dream.
Yeah.
It still feels like, we have 3 towns that the tax base is pretty strong, is very strong. And it still feels like there ought to be incentive or interest in a community recreation
You
facility.
would think so.
Yeah.
And it comes up over and over again, and the stadium remains the possibility, although the wetlands is somewhat of a stumbling block, but getting behind that as at least as an open air roofed facility. You know,
I just don't think any of the towns can tolerate, or, you know, us as residents can tolerate big tax increases.
No.
There's just,
No,
there's.
not right now,
not gonna happen.
especially.
And, you know,
so, yeah, so programming through existing programs, if we
Or
can do that, or
facilities,
facilities.
I mean, the pool, the swim lessons at the Shark, it's a great, I mean, there is a pool, they're willing to do it, so that
Right,
seems like
yeah. Yeah,
a win.
And maybe it needs to be, you know, we need to try to facilitate summer swim lessons. That's sharp. Because that, you know, there is that shallow end is definitely works for swim lessons in the outdoor pool.
And that's a pool, yeah.
And the bridges probably would not, you know, because the
yeah, the owner
homeowners.
thing.
Okay, so program brochure, no.
Website, we
but-
did a beautiful job on the
Yes,
new.
website, and we're not tracking, are we, hits or visits?
I stopped getting that, I
Do we
used to
have
get an
any
email,
Analytics?
I can look into that. I used to get a monthly email that, and then that went away for something, but I can put it on my to-do list.
I'm gonna put a question mark,
But
analytics
I'm sure
for-
Squarespace, I'm sure if I just go to the.
It's gotta be there somewhere.
and I'm only thinking about, you know, it comes up over and over again, I think we're doing a better job of people becoming familiar with the work of the rec district. But if we think about a survey from 3 years ago, the first one we did, people are like, no idea. And then another year and a half later, people are going, yeah.
Well, and the fact that Moortown joined, and when we started that campaign, hardly anybody knew that Moortown wasn't.
Part of
of the
it.
rec district. So at least I think we've made some progress, but,
And recreation volunteer fair never came to fruition. Is that something that we still think is important? Or we decided, no, it's the organizations, our partner organizations are doing just fine?
I mean, I think they're doing fine. I think it's the same people, but I think that is what always happens.
well, and I think it's, you follow your kids through what
Yeah.
they're doing, and then.
And a new
That's
crew
what
comes
seems
up.
to me, I mean, it's pretty hard to find older people that are gonna, you know, coach the kindergartners, that maybe, you know, you could just
Unlikely.
They're not there.
do that, yeah.
So this would, for me, would dovetail, and I wrote down as a gap, encourage volunteerism. And again, in the valley, it is the same people and the same, you know, over and over again. But I wonder, it was kind of fun to listen to some of the events. And even though they might be sort of outside our bailiwick,
Mhm.
the Christmas bonfire.
Yeah,
And the Winter Fest and a pumpkin chuck. And I just wonder if we do things that are kind of, low hanging fruit, doesn't
Mhm.
require a lot of administration, if that would, if you bring people out of the woodwork for those kind of community events,
Yeah.
do you stimulate more volunteerism?
Hey, guys, just going back to programming, if you're moving on to events house. Just in
Yep.
terms, under grants and funding, should we mention, say, the Lawson Sunshine Fund?
Yes. And that's been put to good use.
Yeah.
So I sort of feel like the programming and as we start thinking about moving forward with a strategic plan, feels very flat for us.
Mhm.
Like there's not a lot going on.
Like there's not a lot going on, and maybe it's something that we're saying, I don't know if it's really Is that where we wanna put a lot of our energy?
Well, maybe we do it through funding partners, their program, like if you're driving to Stowe for mountain bike stuff, if we were able to help the riders do more kids mountain bike programming here.
Right.
Right, I mean, that's what I'm saying, so that maybe that's how we get at programming more.
Through assisting others.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's used probably money.
Yeah, well, and that would be,
But it's not only
Paying
money, I think some of it is
coaches.
strategic thinking about like, okay, so there's this gap in beginner trails, like, or a skills park, so, you know, the riders is a volunteer crew, so. Like everyone is, I mean, it might just be thinking through things, I mean, obviously it might be some money too, but. I don't know,
So that, again, I'm thinking about volunteers, staffing, always seems to be the challenge. And it requires a lot of energy and creative thinking to figure out how to inspire that level of participation. But maybe that's something that, as we think about a strategic plan, maybe we don't wanna go there, that it's more than we can, that we can chew. But is there some way that we can, in our role as a coordinator of recreation, is there a role that we can play?
I mean, it could have like a really fun event sometime where you get in free if you were a coach or you worked on it's something like that, and other people can come, but they gotta
Or
pay.
recognition
Yes,
events.
recognition. But I think the core issue with volunteering is that people are having to work more than one job now to make it work, or, everybody in the family's working. There's not the bandwidth for volunteering when you're in a tighter economic situation, which I think a lot of people are in the valley, and so. Yeah, I wouldn't wanna put a ton of energy and time against it this is just my hypothesis, but I remember when my kids were in elementary school, I couldn't figure out why there weren't more volunteers at PTO, right? And so I just went around and I asked people, and I realized that it was only in families where there was a mom and a dad that people had the bandwidth to volunteer at the PTO. And then you also had to have, professional enough job so that, it was just it was really a socioeconomic thing, the
Mhm.
volunteering. So I don't know if it's that way for.
So
other
maybe it's,
volunteering.
no,
and
I think that's true, it came up at the Spring Hill Work Party, that somebody mentioned, like, it used to be you would ask people to come to this, and. There was usually someone in the family that wasn't working full-time, so having people
Right,
come
you could have
for
the
3 hours
flexibility.
to do that was. Not a big deal, and now it's just getting harder and harder, cause like you have to leave work early to go, so
Yeah.
I think it's a really valid point. That needs to be.
maybe it's, it's just having the back of our partners and being aware of what their needs are, and wherever we can to get the word out. We may not be able to pull out of thin air the volunteers, but we certainly can help facilitate getting the word out about the needs.
Or you could facilitate a fundraiser, like we could set up one of those, like the parents' night out thing. And the money that's raised, we could look for volunteers to help with that. The money that's raised, we give to, one of our partners because they have a special need or project or something.
That's sort of interesting, and that maybe that's another backdoor way to support our partners. Because people don't have bandwidth, and oftentimes people will turn around and say, I don't mean to make this categorical generalization, but people will turn around and say, but I'll give some money to help find staffing for it, because I can't do it myself. And maybe that's a different way to come at it.
Well, I forget what group it was, maybe it was the Warren PTO that said like, okay, if you can't volunteer, then you can pay $100, like it was wasn't it?
It's Little League.
Little League does.
Little
it, yeah.
League, Little League, okay,
does
that's
that,
what it
yes.
is. I mean, like, it's it's the have and have nots getting to another dimension, but it is a way to, as an equalizer, you could, you're helping. If you don't have enough time to help, you can do it in a different way. So it's really like the people who are, maintaining the fields are doing in-kind helping, and the other people are just, donating, it's kind of but. Yeah,
And maybe that's not really, at the end of the day, we turn around and go, it's just more than what we can be responsible for. Other than supporting our partners and getting the word out wherever we can.
and I do think that, are we on the grants thing that, if we knew what specific needs there were, I could help write some grants, you know what I mean? I think that the small organizations don't have the bandwidth for that, if it's a good fit. And,
So if we go back up on needs
Yeah.
assessment and planning, I was looking to try to find our survey results and I went into the folder. It's not there in our Mad River Rec District headquarters. My recollection of that survey was primarily an assessment of use. How much are you aware that this resource exists and do you use it? And I was just looking at the 120-page Colorado's outdoor recreation strategic plan. And they did a survey that was an assessment of the quality to try to figure out the user's experience. And is that another kind of survey that we could do? That we go through, we know that these things exist. But when we start saying, okay, well, we need to target certain resources, recreation resources, because they need to be upgraded, would that help us understand the quality of experience that people have?
it seems like I don't know, it seems like a lot of work to me for, I think the individual organizations probably know, like if you asked
So the survey goes
Bob
to,
Kogut, he could tell you, these are the two trails we need to put some money and time against, you know what I mean? And I'm sure Misha could tell you the same thing about the path.
so create a survey for our partner organizations that assess their perception or quality of experience.
I guess, sure, I guess, but what? They'd rather have us just do something for them, like, we ask them what's needed, and then we can't do anything for them, I mean, it just seems a little bit like.
Well, that's what we've been with this before, right? I asked what people needed, then like, well, that's great.
Did not happen, oh, we'd love an indoor swimming pool, not happening, okay, what else do you need? What else?
But you had mentioned earlier, reaching out to our partner organization.
Oh, yeah, I think it's really important for the strategic plan. I also think we should have an article in the newspaper about it, because if individuals have, questions or comments, we want to hear it, right? I mean, it's taxpayer money. We don't want to keep this planning under a rock. We want to have people give us ideas.
Somebody had something to, they said, oh, you're on the rec district. And I said, yeah, Gordon. They said, how come the rec district doesn't do anything to combine different sectors in the community? Like, wouldn't it be so cool if there was like a thing around healthy eating or school lunches and recreation? Like, we focus so much on recreation. It's kind of the only thing that's still alive and well. Restaurants are closing. Like, it feels like there's this kind of farming history that's still just kind of hanging on. And we know that there's kids who don't have enough food to eat, and there's these cleaning programs and this recreation thing, and like, how come there's nobody who's trying to tie those things together?
And I think I had pointed that in the whip around, so asking about, wellness.
Yeah.
Wellness, yeah, I think, yeah.
It was interesting, he's like, I can't remember where he had been, where he mentioned that at a mountain bike trailhead, there was a community garden. And he's like, it just had this really cool feel to it, that like,
Yeah,
you would go like harvest your veggies and then head out on your bike, it kind of reminded you of the interconnectedness of where we live and. So now we're gonna become gardeners. It
Wasn't that what happens when you park at River Farm?
is.
If you go visit the pigs that are gonna be
Yes,
slaughtered.
it's true, yeah.
Look at the
I know they'll have
vegetables.
to, but they're giving away.
And you eat really yummy pizza.
Some of the events that
Yeah.
Katerina mentioned, money raised for food bank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Yeah, that's the connection right there. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe it is that kind of, not simple, but like that. Attainable.
Hey. How we doing? Grants, Front Street Partners, check. Grant writing support, Laura's done a great job helping out.
Yeah, I mean, I did that for the Mad Marathon last June. So, you know, I think we'd have to be selective about that. I don't want to be like somebody's assistant and some, you know, arm of some other organization, but I
Right.
think if there's, you know, a clear opportunity or, I mean, I think we need to stay open about that.
Mhm.
And then there's also, you know, should, you know, Borac will be ended at the end of June, and, you know, should we keep an eye out for a big grant that we would be heavily involved with? I mean, is there, you know, I mean, this strategic plan will lead us to, okay, yeah, we really want an X. So,
Right.
you know,
Right, it's a little bit of, chicken or the egg.
yeah, right,
Get
right,
into what our priorities are.
right, but I, you know, keep
Grants
my,
that may
my
exist.
eyes open for opportunities.
So.
I think that's sort of a general service that we should probably offer to all our partners, is if they have a need for a grant of some sort, to identify what their opportunities might be, and then Laura, being the expert she is, helping them write it. I think that should be part of the program.
I mean, I think we, you know, we might be able to, on our website, have a, grant resource list. Not that, you know, that it's there, but,
I think each of the organization, again, like they're kind of more experts in their, we all, like, all of the nonprofit people get the same things from the state, and whatever you find out when certain things are opening. And, you know, then you, if you have a need, then you read more carefully, see if this grant meets that need. You know, it's kind of a big open field, and there's private foundations and, you know, other things, but,
okay, so maybe it's a question of, you know, so we're not gonna create this extensive library of all of the possible grants that are out there, because we don't know what those needs are. But could we fund something, an individual who would do a presentation to our partner organizations about how to approach grants? You know, these are places that you can look for grants, this is how you know.
I think we should ask them, ask the partner, I mean, I think what's gonna happen is they're gonna say, if we find a grant opportunity, it's so hard for us to find the time to write the grant. So I don't know how, I mean, I know that depending how big, I know Friends of the Mad River and the Path, they're always looking for grants for projects, right?
Yeah.
So they're already really wired in, and then Little League and other places like that, they don't have the bandwidth. I mean, that's why I think we really, you know, surveying our partners, what do they need? And maybe it will be something in the grant arena, but I don't think it's that they don't know how. You do have to find a grant for the right purpose, and where you have a better chance of getting it.
Mhm.
And then and then you have to write it, and then, you know, so there's a couple steps to it, but I don't know if they're lacking in that first step or not.
What about in this section, the extra, BOREC money, that what might be a larger one-time grant we're talking about? Does that go in?
The
this
money that's
section?
coming back to us,
Yeah.
the 31,000, that we will, I'll work with you separately, but we can transfer that back into the rec district account anytime now, because we don't have a pressing cash flow issue. We're almost finished with Borac, but, yeah, well, that is another part of it. We have to decide if we would do something specific, like a one-time grant, whether it's something, at one point, we had talked about maybe we would research buying some electric bikes and having a lending library for electric bikes. You know, the Mad River path has started the canoe, I'm pointing because the canoes are back there. But you know, that's pretty cool. Maybe we see how that
Or
lending
we
stuff
cycle it
goes.
into our grant program, if more money is available.
Yeah, right, so, yeah, we could, you know what, in fact, I have to ask, my director's report is a little bit on the long side. Because
So we're gonna keep moving along. So let me, as far as moving forward on our, we need a work plan for this. We had talked about July, and is that right? As a time frame for, I mean,
Yes.
what are our next steps in developing our strategic plan?
We said we were gonna use maybe the July meeting to only talk about the strategic plan. We've also considered having an offsite at some point. And then we were gonna look at other town strategic plans, if you have a few in.
So I don't think we're, you know, if we use the July meeting, our board meeting, we're not yet ready to do anything off-site until we start establishing. I think we begin with looking at our mission is in place. That's part of our agreement. We don't change but do we have a vision? And then establishing a set of priorities and goals. Then we have an off-site meeting where we really talk about implementation as a step by step. But are we ready to talk about goals and priorities
Well, I
without
think-
having surveyed our partners?
Yeah, no, I think we have to put it out to the public and do an online survey to our partners, which I could draft some questions and.
Was it 2 years ago that we each kind of picked a partner organization and went to their board meeting and chatted with them?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to look back at that, it was asked then, and then we have to ask them very specific. But I think we should, those were interviews and they were all a little bit different because different people were leading them. I'd like to see us do an online survey to partners and so that you'd have better apples to apples kind of thing with the way the questions are asked and stuff. And then just see, you know, what, you know, we could ask, like, does your organization currently have a big project, you know, a one-off big project where, you know, $50,000 could help you do something important, you know, just find out what's out there and whether or not we'd like, you know, save this 31,000, add to it a little bit and have a special grant round where we're like giving out 50 grand for the best idea or infrastructure thing in the valley, you know what I mean? Like, so you could change it up a little, because I think, you know, our partners are very grateful about our steady, small funding, but, you know, we have a chance. to
Do you
something
think
different.
that, as a matter of sequence, that, we could have you draft a survey for our partner organizations, get that shored up in June? And is that enough time for our partner organizations to then respond how long do partner organizations need to respond? Sometimes if you have a contained period of time, it's a more effective way of getting.
Well, especially if we each like, so it wasn't all on you, Laura, like if we each had like 2 or something that we were supposed to follow up with, like called. Hey, did you get the survey? Why haven't you done it?
Yeah. My hesitation is, I mean, I can, I'm happy to, spend an hour or two and come up with a list of questions, but I have a lot to do to close out VORAC. I look back at what our assistant had done, the record keeping, and it wasn't as much as I thought, so I have to dig into some things. I have to create some documents that I didn't think I would have to do, so that's why I hesitate about me being able to get it.
So
done.
I think having a
Month.
survey, working with our partner organizations is a prerequisite to us sitting down and saying, okay, now what are the needs?
Well, we
And
have-
that's our vision.
We could go back, I mean, we could go back and see what the needs were, it wasn't that long ago, at the starting point.
Oh, but I bet it's changed a lot. I mean, don't you think? It's been 2 years? No?
But I don't know, I mean,
So I'm thinking that it's, maybe we should use that June meeting to put that list of questions together, get you off the hook of doing that. You're almost put the list of questions together, assign people to reach out to partners and say, okay, here it is, can you do this? And then when we come back in July, I think we could do that. And take it off your shoulders, carry the water together on the survey. Get it to our partner organizations, and then we can use some of that as our audit for discussing and identifying needs.
and I think we should also pull together the public survey and the last partner survey results, and I think the partner one is on the website in a folder, but anyway,
Yeah.
because
So we have-
refresh our memories about the info we've gathered, and then,
Exactly, so we have our public survey, we have the
partner interviews.
partner interviews, and then we'll formulate, do a more current, up-to-date, with partner.
Yeah,
interviews.
Between June and July.
So old and new. And then we should, what we identify the needs, and then also, I think, in July, have a blended discussion about a vision and some initial discussion about goals, objectives.
Good.
Okay, that's our current work plan. Okay, so,
all right.
Laura.
My report. I sold bike helmets, bike lights at Warren's Course. They only sold 2 helmets, so thank you, Molly and Doug, for selling them tomorrow at the concert. But who knows, and I'm gonna sell them at the potluck hour. Tomorrow night is the 4th community forum for CRB, so we'll see, and then I'll probably do a farmer's market thing, or just put it in Front Porch Forum, and it's a little bit of a hassle because it's sizing and back and forth with pickup and delivery, but I've done that before, so I just make it work. We need volunteers for the marathon. It's on Sunday, July 13th. And so there's, probably need 2 people for each shift, 7 to 9. Good, yeah, 7 to 9, 9 to 11, 11 to 1, and we need somebody who goes to Dorian Meehan's house in Warren Galloping Wind Trail to pick the stuff up and drop it off.
do that.
You can still do that?
Mhm.
Woo, Doug, thank you. And then do you want to do that first shift if
Yeah.
you've got everything in your
Yeah,
car?
yeah.
Okay,
I can actually, I'm here that weekend, I could help with something.
all right, what, how about this? So Doug, you can do the pickup and drop off, or no, pick what?
Pick up and set up.
Pick up, set up, and the first, the 7 to 9.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big push in the
So you
morning,
might
just
need
getting
people.
it's, there were 3 of us that did it last year, maybe 4. Did you come first thing in the morning?
No, I was later
with
Laura.
Yeah, so it's
Later.
Jay, Luke and I set up, and it was pretty,
Hector?
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to get set up for a huge rush because they come through
Yeah.
all at the same time.
Yeah,
And then you're moving across the street and then there they are.
Yeah.
Going back to the half marathoners.
yeah. Anybody else, you said, who else had that availability?
I can do it.
Okay, do you wanna, is there a shift?
I don't
neither?
care, whatever is needed.
Okay, um,
7 to 9, 9 to 11, 11 to 1.
Yeah.
9 to 11, I thought.
9-11, okay. Then how about Gina, you 11 to 1?
Mhm.
And then I'll be able to do it, I'll see if I can get a girlfriend to come with me, all right,
I'm not in town, but I could recruit people if needed.
yeah, okay,
And I'm not sure if I'm here.
yeah,
Well, so I don't know if
oh,
Luke is,
Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be in town either.
So,
What was mine,
Leah
11,
can't
11
do
to,
it.
what was mine?
11 to 1, and Corey can't do it, okay.
so I don't know if Luke's available, but I'll need help in that first
Let's
shift.
put her on the 7 to.
But he's not gonna be back, isn't he saying longer? We have to ask him.
I thought he was coming back in June.
That June.
I thought, okay,
Oh,
we're gonna
June.
ask him. Okay. All right, but basically we gotta get started, and I just had to get back to Dory on whether that was gonna be possible. Okay, a couple of other things, I went to the VRPA annual meeting and learned a lot about playgrounds, but sadly what they made. It sounded like they had $2 million to give away in grants, but it was just really discounts on their equipment. Which, you know, they do a beautiful job, they have a research arm. And there's a lot to learn and learn things online, but I don't think it's with the funding opportunity I had hoped for. But they did say, and this is kind of like really sad, kids born today will live 5 years less than the rest of us because of inactivity and bad eating and other stuff, so that life expectancy is going
See,
down.
there's the connections.
Yeah, yeah. I did send you guys a link today about, how we're integrating, CRB into our work. Thank you for that last one I couldn't think of. Just in case anybody asks you, just so you really feel like, you know, you understand, and also Bear is gonna be staffing a table tomorrow night, that document will help. Summer swim lessons, I was not able to get swim instructors to even, you know, further anything. We could offer people to go to Waterbury and do the same thing, or not.
At the very least, I think we should.
So it would be rising first graders could, if they haven't done it before, I work with the schools and offer the $100
Yeah, I think so.
subsidy. Cause we had allocated up to $5,000 for that, and we probably have to have a vote.
How much have we spent?
No, we spent 1,900, oh, maybe, yeah.
I mean, I propose, I move that we allocate funds specifically, $100 per child, is that what it is? Per child, for Waterbury swim lessons up to how much?
The remainder of that 5,000.
So up to $3,000, right?
Yeah, it was, I think it was
Do you
1,900,
want me to look?
yeah, okay.
I'll look.
You want me to keep going while he's looking?
Yes.
Should we continue doing the value reporter articles, and if so, what would be the next? Well, the next topic would be our strategic plan.
Do we have enough to? We think about that.
Well, I might also, if I get a farmer's market date for helmets and bike life, I mean, it could be kind of an eclectic,
1,700.
we spent 1,700. Okay,
One other value reporter topic might be water safety, given our the way our rivers are running right now, maybe in June, that's not gonna be an issue, but just a thought.
Do I repeat I did write one last year in July after the floods, specifically on water safety. But maybe it's, you know, a summer safety
Summer safety.
on a lot of different things, from, bike riding to water to
Lightning safety.
lightning, I mean, yeah. Out on the, so a summer you know, a summer season safety article.
Yeah, I think that would work.
One of the things that is, I'm switching topics out here, one of the things that's coming out of CRB is we'd like to work on a code of ethics for recreation users. So if you have any thoughts on that or bullet points that you'd like added, a good place to start is to look at, I mean, I could send everybody the Kingdom Trails Code of Ethics, and that might be food for thought. But I mean, I really feel like we need to be proactive about suggesting things for that, because there's a small group of people working on it, and I think at some point they're just gonna present something and it'll be harder to get things in there if we start now and say, hey, here are, you know, 5 suggestions from our board, so I'll send you that email and get everybody just, you know, thinking about what you may want. So it's for recreation users in the whole valley. It's not just by mountain bike trails or, you know, so just I'll put that in the note. The last thing, I got an email just this afternoon from Marcelite, the new Friends summer staff person, and we had given Friends, I think it's $1,900 for rental equipment to do some of their educational programs, and they want to know if they could use it to purchase equipment because they, you know, get more out of it, and that'd be great. And the other thing is, could it be used for professional services? For instance, they have like, want to do a fly fishing thing, but they need to hire the professional fly fisher instructor and rent the equipment. So could our funds be used for that? It seemed to me that both of those are very legit, and we really love it if they bought the equipment and
Versus what? I missed the.
versus it was just gonna be rental. They thought they were just gonna
Oh,
rent
the
equipment for
So
their
instead of
educational
19
programs. And now
They're not asking for any more money.
No, just to use.
It's reallocation of.
Yeah,
Instead of renting, buying.
yeah, that seemed great, right? You're gonna get more impact.
I mean, the thing about if they're to pay the person, does that mean they'll have less equipment or?
And then the grant was for equipment specifically.
Yeah, but the thing, what she said in that category, like it does no good to rent fly fishing equipment because it's like a complicated sport.
So the
You gotta
question,
teach them.
I think before us is, can the reallocation go for the purchase of equipment? Can some of the reallocation go towards the hiring of an instructor, even though the award was for equipment? I have no problems with the equipment.
Well, do we have a budget of what purchasing the equipment costs?
No, we're.
It's a reimbursement program. so
Yeah, it's a
we
reimbursement, right.
So what do we allocate?
But usually they say like, I mean,
Yeah, let's
are
see.
the fly fishing rods $30 and the teacher is $1,700? Does that not matter?
It does matter.
I think it
No, it
matters, right?
does.
Because
I
we
think it
asked
does.
them to make,
Okay.
to give us a budget.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Let me look. Well, they,
No, it's our grant to them is very general. It's for
Yeah.
rental equipment for the
Okay.
blah, blah, blah.
okay,
So I will ask them, you know.
What portion is for
what
the
portion.
staff person versus the equipment?
Because, I mean, let me just understand what you're saying. It's like it'd be okay if it was like a small professional fee, but you don't wanna pay you don't use the bulk of the grant for.
Well, then it's a different grant ask request.
Right.
Yeah.
We awarded for equipment.
Yep.
Right.
And whether that equipment is rented or purchased is a pretty easy shift, one
Yeah.
or the other.
yep,
Plus, we're not supposed to give grants for staff, right?
We usually say no to that.
Yes.
Well, we're
I don't
open to
have
it,
staff
but we also.
now.
Yeah, but here's the thing, moving forward, like. If you have to have an expert, don't you wanna improve everything in the valley, recreation or environmental by understanding things and you gotta learn?
And I feel it's different hiring like a one-time instructor versus someone paying for staff.
Right, I think that is
I-
different,
I-
yeah.
I think that's as well.
Okay, so I'm gonna, I'll do a follow-up. I'll say the first one is fine to use it for purchasing equipment. But if they were to hire a professional, what would they be spending on that? Because the grant was really for equipment.
Exactly,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, got it. Okay, that was my,
Where are we on the accessibility for the Iris Hill Trail, Lucia? Do we have to think about allocating some, or are we all?
there's, this is again, I was gonna try and talk to people in person tomorrow. There's a little bit of money left in the Borac grant and there's a couple different needs for it. And one of them was making the Fiddler's Walk trail accessible. It's really a single track. It's really pretty narrow. And you know, you couldn't do it.
So my question, it may be premature to pose this now, is whether or not if there's, however this shakes down with what's remaining in the Borac grant, whether we want to invite an out-of-cycle grant from Lucia, an application to get that accessible. That trail accessible, because we did get some extra money, we had that nice donation from TJ.
Mhm.
And I'd love to know, so I wanna know what's.
Yeah, and
left in
he-
the Borac and
right.
where we are, and then if there's not enough to cover it. I would encourage him to submit an out-of-cycle
Yeah,
grant for something that's worthwhile.
He
And
was-
have accessibility.
He was asking the professional trail builder guy how much it would cost for him to do some work with utilizing volunteers on that trail, and I don't think he got an answer back yet, but I'll ask him again tomorrow. So, good. All right, that's it for me.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent.
Did we need to vote on the motion
Oh,
to?
yeah.
Finish that.
Yeah.
17, so 30. no,
3,300.
No, yeah, 3,300
Remaining.
remaining.
So I move to make available 3,300 in $100 increments to first graders for the swim program in Waterbury.
I'll
A
second
second.
that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And do we want it to be kids going into first grade or kids going into second grade or both? Because remember, you had said, I think, why don't you make it younger than second grade? Somebody said
It
that.
wasn't me, but.
It was Leah, sorry.
That was
So,
me.
so going into first or going into second?
I think so.
I think both.
Let's try to broaden that reach.
Okay. All right, great. Are you have to now vote on it?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh.
You are. Okay.
Okay, great. A motion to adjourn? We'll just stay then.
Okay.
Did someone like to
I'll
move?
move to adjourn our May meeting.
I'll second that.
Second.
All in favor?
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
You guys-
Good rest of your evening.
Stay warm on Thursday out of the snow.
Oh,
Yeah.
seems unreasonable.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.